Welcome back to the cruel, brutal, capitalist dystopia of Kuala Lumpur. Hope you're having an amazing day. If you're having an amazing day, I'm having an amazing day. If I'm having an amazing day, you should be having an amazing day. As you can see, my arm is fully healed and functional again, and I'm back in action with a vengeance. So I'm ready to go out and make more videos to piss off certain people. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do consider clicking subscribe, guys. I would really appreciate it. And for all of you long-term subscribers, thank you very much, and I hope you have a lovely day. Without further ado, let's begin. Now, you've probably heard phrases that go somewhere along the lines of, as a person of color, I say X, Y, Z. As a black man, I say Z, Y, E. As an Asian man, I say B, C, D. And as an intersectional BIPOC people of color, a feminist, I say that I feel safer in the woods with a bear than a man. And I find it quite astounding, to be honest, that people actually believe that you can take the word of one individual within an entire ethnic or religious community or gender, and take that person's words to reflect the norms and sentiments of the entire community, as if people are simply a monolith and not individuals in their own right. Now, first of all, using ethnic or, racial quantifiers in order to determine a person's point of view is problematic, because first of all, there are vast differences between an Asian person who's brought up in a Western country like America and an Asian person who's been brought up in the East, like myself. And clearly, not always, but often, when Asians from the East meet Asians from the West, or Asians who have imbibed the American mentality or something like that, oftentimes the two of them do not gel well, as you can see by the hate comments I've received from Asian Americans who are supposed to be the same ethnicity as me. You see, two people from the same ethnicity could have the same genetic code, but a vastly different worldview. If you say, for example, listen to black voices, I take it to mean you don't mean people from Africa, but rather foundational Africans in America when you say black voices. But even then, I find that problematic, because which black voices do you pay heed to? Do you pay heed to Malcolm X or Thomas Sowell? When you say, listen to Asian voices, who do you pay heed to? Do you pay heed to Rishi Sunak, or do you pay heed to Jinping? I mean, for those of you who are still living in a cave in America, Indians and Southeast Asians are Asian, mind you. But the point is, how can you determine a person's point of view just by the color of their skin or the community they belong to? Now, not enough people watched my video on the nonsensical theatrics of race solidarity. The only thing you have in common with someone of the same race is basically your physical features. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be attracted to people of your own race and that's racist. No, of course, people are naturally physically attracted to people of their own race, generally speaking. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, right? But having said that, I find racial solidarity to be a problem, because not only does it drive a wedge between people of different races in the assumption that, it's race against race, but also it undermines, it downplays the class differences between individuals of a particular race. You don't mean to tell me, for example, that working class Chinese Malaysians have anything in common with Vincent Tan. You don't mean to tell me that working class Indian Malaysians have anything in common with Tony Fernandez. You don't mean to tell me that working class Malays have anything in common with Mahathir or his sons. Do they? Yet race solidarity is time and again peddled by the establishment, by the ruling class, in order to divide the masses and create distrust among ethnic communities. And if you ask me, this is why race-based parties in Malaysia, like UMNO, United Malays National Organization, MIC, Malaysian Indian Congress, well, they're a small party and they don't have much power, but still, and MCA, the Malaysian Chinese Association. These are all reactionary parties, and these are all parties that are run by elites. Well, the AP is not much better. The Democratic Action Party is a party of SOCDEMs. But at the same time, these three race-based parties in Malaysia, UMNO, MIC, and MCA, have got to go, because they purport to be sticking up for the interests of members of their own race, but in reality, they stick up for the interests of elites, not even working class people of their own race. The race-based name is just a cover. An UMNO man like Tunku Abdul Rahman has a lot more in common with a Singaporean elite like Lee Kuan Yew than he does with an average Malay person. But I mean, he was a much nicer man than Lee Kuan Yew, of course. But I'm just stating the class fact that an elite Malay has a lot more in common with an elite Chinese or Indian than they do with a working class Malay, and the same applies for the two other races. I mean, have you seen how contemptuously Mahathir himself speaks about poor Malays who have fallen through the cracks? Believe me, he would rather have someone like Vincent Tan over for tea than any of you, despite the fact that he uses race solidarity as a talking point. The point is, the only difference that you have with a worker of another race is skin deep. Perhaps you may have cultural differences, but you have far more in common with a worker of a different race and even culture and religion than you do with a capitalist of your own race. I have said this time and again. It almost feels like going through the motions, because I keep saying this again and again and again. Your interests lie in sticking up with people, sticking up for people in the same boat as you. And then some might say, oh, well, can you tell that to the black American slaves? Do they have interests, the same interests with a white worker? Well, let me ask you this. Do the black field slaves have the same class interests with the house slave? I think it was Karl Marx who said that labor in the white flesh will never be free so long as labor in the black flesh is branded. Because again, slavery, the abominable condition of slavery, was one of those instances, one of those contradictions that arose from the capitalist mode of development, and the dehumanization of not only black people but Asian and Middle Eastern people and Native Americans was also a contradiction that arose from capitalism, which is also exploiting the white workers of America as we speak. Because let me tell you that many white people and many Malay people do not have easy lives, despite the fact that liberals would rather call a white or a Malay person privilege, simply because they happen to be white or Malay. Many white people struggle, many Malay people struggle, and many of them, and we all want the same thing, to put food on the table and to educate our children and to support our families, take care of our parents. That's what we want, right? I don't think there's any normal worker who doesn't want the same things. Perhaps we may have superficial differences, but at the end of the day, we all benefit from the tearing down of this cruel, rotten, and barbaric capitalist system that only benefits the elites of all races, while it makes the people of the working class fight each other for crumbs. The capitalist laughs when the workers blame each other, when they blame workers of other races for their problems, rather than the capitalists who created the conditions for their problems in the first place. The Singaporean socialist leader Lim Chin Siong understood this. He understood that you have to organize across communal lines. You cannot expect to gain success if you only organize one section of the proletariat, but you ignore and neglect the other sections of the proletariat. And this is why intersectionality is a problem. Because intersectionality, well, it does make sense that yes, women, people of color, and so on, have been vastly affected and vastly oppressed under the capitalist and feudal modes of production. The problem is that it assumes that everyone in each particular group, whether that be gender or racial or religious, has got the same view and the same interests. Nothing could be further from the truth. Bourgeois women, for example, are not oppressed by capitalism in the same way proletariat women are. And bourgeois men, for example, do not have the same problems that proletariat men face. You cannot seriously expect to believe that bourgeois women and proletarian women share the same interests and are affected by capitalism in the same way, just like you can't expect me to believe that bourgeois men and proletarian men both, have got equal amounts to lose by the abolition of capitalism. The problem is that liberals tend to not want to end class society. They merely want a bigger share of the pie that they feel they're entitled to. And that is why, fundamentally, liberals do not want to see the workers united, regardless of race, gender, or sexuality. And that is why liberals will do everything in their power to try and stifle class consciousness and instead force race consciousness or gender consciousness in the workers, you see. And the same goes for these red pill manosphere guys. For instance, red pill manosphere people will tell you that, your problems are caused by female hypergamy. It's female nature and not capitalism that has caused your problems. But at the same time, these manosphere gurus are bourgeois men who are profiting off the loneliness and frustration of single proletarian men who find it difficult to get a girlfriend, because capitalism does make everybody a lot more status conscious and materialistic. Let's not beat about the bush. Fundamentally, these red pill gurus do not care about the people who support them. What do you think proletarian women have in common with bourgeois women? Not much, I can tell you, besides their X chromosomes, because fundamentally, bourgeois women are beneficiaries of capitalist oppression. In the same way, bourgeois men are beneficiaries of capitalist oppression. So you cannot seriously expect me to believe that I, as a man, have anything in common with my oppressor. Why should a proletarian man who's getting oppressed by the bourgeoisie, by the capitalists, have anything in common with their oppressor? If the slave and the slave master are of the same gender, does that mean that they have anything in common? No, of course not. But you know who has everything to gain and nothing to lose under the socialist mode of production? The proletariat, the working class, the people who produce the value they should be entitled to. That's who. So I think it's clear by this point why I say, the notion that you should listen to this person because this person is race XYZ or this person is gender XYZ is problematic. And it's problematic because it presupposes that women and people of ethnic minority backgrounds cannot be reactionary. Because they certainly can. For instance, I would very much prefer to organize with a progressive socialist Malay than I would with a Chinese Malaysian reactionary, because the Chinese Malaysian reactionary does not want the world that I want. He wants a world like Singapore, while the Malay revolutionary wants the same thing that I want: a fair, humane and just society for all, regardless of race or gender. And when you say you must listen to so-and-so because that person is this race or that gender, well, the ruling class can simply co-opt tokens from this race or this gender in order to serve as representatives. For example, Rishi Sunak. Do you think Rishi Sunak represents working class Indians, represents the proletarian Indians in India? Does Rishi Sunak even represent the proletarian in Britain? No. In fact, Rishi Sunak will do everything in his power to prevent the proletarian people, the proletarian masses, from fulfilling their historic role of overthrowing capitalism. Because he benefits from class society. In the same way that you could be a black person or an ethnic minority or a woman and benefit from class oppression. I don't know why this is difficult to get. And yes, you could be a man, you could be an ethnic majority who has fallen through the cracks and is suffering, you know. So, you know, I know it's tempting for some people to just follow their feelings and go along the lines of racial politics and think, if you're a white person in America or a Malay person in Malaysia, you are starting life on easy mode. But believe me, you are starting life on Dark Souls level difficulty if you're a Malay or white person who was born into a broken and impoverished family. No amount of affirmative action or racist politicians can help you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, except socialism, you see. And yeah, that's what I've been saying. Yeah, when I said the ruling class co-opts tokens in order to serve their narrative, you even have people like Amy Tan speaking on behalf of all Chinese women in America. But in Asia, she would be from a reactionary family. These people who moved to America and are speaking on behalf of Asians in Asia are the reactionaries of their own societies. So you see, it is an unreliable mode, it's an unreliable method and very problematic to reduce people to their racial identities. That, like I said, you could even be a woman or person of color or even a gay person who is reactionary. There are lots of reactionary gay guys around. It's just that, you know, liberals don't like to put it that way, but yes, Dave Rubin is pretty reactionary. Tom Ford, the fashion designer, is pretty damn reactionary as well. Who's to say that you can't be reactionary just because you come from a marginalized identity? You absolutely can be. And the sooner we overcome these stupid artificial barriers that divide the working class, the better, because the bourgeoisie does not care. The bourgeoisie uses the bourgeoisie plays the workers of different communities against each other. Straight workers against gay workers against straight workers, women against men, men against women. And yeah, those red pill guys are the same, the two sides of the same coin with those radical right-wing feminists. So they even play races against each other. But after 6 p.m., the ruling class are all friends, regardless of race, gender, or sexuality, you see. So understand this, wisen up, and start organizing with people on the basis of ideals rather than race or gender, because these things are only skin deep. What matters is the sort of world that you want to create. And I don't want the same kind of world as a Chinese Malaysian Sok Dem from the AP. I want a socialist world. If you're Malay or Indian and you want a socialist world too, I am willing to work with you. So let us create this beautiful world, this world of justice and equality, and this world that the ruling class does not want us to create, and let us do it together. We, the people of the world, can get over our superficial differences and swim together, or we can remain divided and sink apart. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.